Hey, welcome back to Livin MN Outdoors. I'm Daniel, and thanks for tuning in to another fishing report. Before we dive into this week's fishing report, just want to remind you guys, if you use any of the guides or resorts mentioned in today's report, please let them know you saw them on Livin MN Outdoors. And also want to mention, if you guys are in the market for a lithium battery for your boat, your RV, whatever it might be, go over, check out Lead Time lithium batteries. Use our promo code LIVIN10 or LIVIN8 and save some money on those. But with that being said, let's dive into this week's fishing report. All right, this week we're gonna start up on Mille Lacs Lake. The bite on Mille Lacs for both walleye and smallmouth bass has been actually really decent lately. We'll start off with the walleyes. The first 2 hours of the morning and the last 2 hours of the evening have been producing some really nice fish, and it's not super hard to find them. They are hanging out in 8 to 14 foot of water on the rocks. If you can find a rock pile in that 8 to 14 foot of water and you fish it that first 2 or last 2 hours of the day, you're going to find some walleyes. Now, as far as how to catch those walleyes, a slip bobber in a leech or a crawler is working well. Otherwise, to cover more ground, pitching a jig with a leech or a crawler is working as well. Now, if you want to avoid the live bait altogether, throwing around a 2.8 to a 3.5 inch paddle tail on a swim bait jig is working as well, and actually it's getting some more of those finicky walleyes to bite. Now, after those first 2 hours and before the last 2 hours, best place to target those walleyes is out in 26 to 30 foot of water on the edges of the mud flats. Guys are using slip bobbers out there. A night crawler or a leech is working on those. If it's a windier day, putting a small jig head on your slip bobber rig helps some. Otherwise, on a more calm day, a plain red hook is working best. Otherwise, pulling crankbaits on lead core out there or drifting a Lindy rig or slow trolling it is working as well. Now, as far as the smallmouth bass bite goes, the majority of the smallmouth bass are being caught in that 8 to 16 foot of water. There might be a few up in a little shallower. There's probably some out deeper in that 16 to 24 foot of water. But that sweet spot is that 8 to 16 foot of water on those big chunky rocks and boulders. Now, the best ways to catch the smallmouth is with a Ned rig. Something that's mimicking a crawfish color is working best, and then a drop shot is working really well also. Just want to remind you, when you're pitching up on those rocks, park your boat off the structure quite a ways. The fish are extremely spooky, and then work your drop shot and your Ned rig really slow. Sometimes it seems like you're leaving it sit there too long, but it doesn't really seem to be too long for those fish, because usually it's well into your paws when you're going to get them to bite. Now, as far as the perch bite goes, haven't really been getting any good perch reports. It seems like they're scattered, they're on the move, they're feeding on bugs. So if you're going to target them, use something really small and try and match the hatch. Now, as far as the pike bite goes, there's actually been a really good pike bite out on Mille Lacs Lake, over in Isle Bay, Walk-On, Cove Bay, Garrison Bay. They've been catching some really nice pike over there, Vineland Bay as well. They're trolling some really big spinner baits is working well. Otherwise, some big spoons or crankbaits is also working for those big pike. Now, if you guys are looking to hire a guide up in the Mille Lacs Lake area, we're partnered up with Joe from Keeper's Guide Service. He does still have some availability throughout the remainder of the summer. So if you want to get in on some walleye or bass action out on Mille Lacs Lake, or you want to fish some of the local smaller lakes around Mille Lacs, go ahead and call Joe from Keeper's Guide Service. All right, now moving over to Leech Lake. The bite on Leech Lake has gotten a little bit tougher. There's a mayfly hatch currently going on up there, and the fish are absolutely gorging on bugs right now. Now, you can find walleyes out on the main lake humps in that 17 to 24 foot of water, but those fish seem to be really hard to get to bite right now. They're feeding on a ton of bugs out there. But there is another area you can target those walleyes, and that's in that 8 to 13 foot of water on the weed edges in those weed to sand transitions. Now, some better techniques to catch those fish is with a slip bobber and a leech, or 3/4 of a crawler, or pitching a jig with a leech or a chunk of a crawler is working as well. And then some guys are getting them on spinners as well, but I would recommend putting a lighter inline weight on and running your spinner way out behind the boat, because those fish do tend to be a little bit spooky. So the further back you can get your bait, the more likely you are to get them to bite. Now, as far as the smallmouth bass goes, 8 to 16 foot of water on the rocks out there. Those first rock reefs off the shoreline is holding a huge majority of those smallmouth bass. I feel like Leech Lake is one of the most underrated smallmouth lakes in the state. Like out on Mille Lacs Lake, throwing a Ned rig or a drop shot is working extremely well for those smallmouth bass. Now, as far as the panfish bite goes, 8 to 13 foot of water on the weed edges is working for those. Pitching a small 1/16 ounce jig with a chunk of a crawler or a panfish leech is working both for bluegills and crappies. You can also use a fathead for the crappies or a minnow style plastic for those crappies, but the crappies do seem to be a little bit tougher to find than the bluegills right now. Now, as far as the muskie fishing goes, the majority of the muskie fishermen are fishing the shallow weeds and the shallow rocks in that 5 to 11 foot of water, throwing bucktails, crankbaits, and on some calmer days throwing some topwater as well. Now, there's always those guys who are out live scoping over the deeper water, like the Paris Trench and some of the deeper basins. Wherever the tulibies are hanging out, that's usually where some of those bigger muskies are lurking, and they're throwing big rubber baits out there or big glide baits to catch those fish out suspended. Now, if you guys are looking for a guide up in the Leech Lake area, we are partnered up with Parker from Davis's Guide Service. He does have some availability over the next 2 to 3 weeks, and then his schedule gets pretty full. So if you want to book a trip later in July or throughout August, you better get on that right away. But he also does have some availability over the next 2 to 3 weeks as well. So whether you want to get out on Leech Lake to chase some walleye or panfish, or fish some of the local smaller lakes up there, go ahead and give Parker a call from Davis's Guide Service. Now, if you're looking for a place to stay on Leech Lake, Acorn Hill Resort is located on beautiful Traders Bay. Kyle runs a great operation over there. He does have some cabins available yet this weekend and throughout the rest of the summer. His RV and tent sites are full this weekend, but he does have availability the rest of the season. He also has a full bar and restaurant, the Loaded Loon Bar and Grill, indoor swimming pool, boat rentals, live bait, the whole works. So if you're looking to get up to the Leech Lake area, go ahead and call Kyle at Acorn Hill Resort. I also want to mention, guys, Acorn Hill Resort will be hosting Muskie Camp again in August. You don't have a lot of time to sign up for that, so if you are interested in Muskie Camp, that includes your cabins, your meals, your guides, your seminars, all that. It's a week long. It's an absolute blast. So if you're interested in getting in on Muskie Camp, go ahead and call Acorn Hill Resort. All right, now moving over to Lake Winnie. The walleye bite out on Winnie is pretty decent right now. As far as where to find those walleyes, There's two different areas and kind of two different size classes based on where you intend to fish. If you're looking for those eater fish under 18 inches, the weed lines are your best bet. In Tamarack Bay and the other bays in that area, fishing that 8 to 11 foot of water, pulling a spinner with a night crawler, fathead, or a leech is working for those. Also, if you're live scoping, find those fish, pitch a slip bobber on top of them, and you're more than likely going to get them to bite that way as well. Now, if you're looking for bigger walleyes, the majority of the bigger walleyes are being caught out on the main lake humps, kind of off the edges of them in 24 to 30 foot of water. Now, the method of choice out there seems to be dragging a Lindy rig around, put on a crawler or a leech, and you're probably going to run into some really nice walleyes. Some absolute magnum walleyes have been caught out there lately. The biggest one I know of in the past week was 29.5 inches, with a lot of them in that 25 to 28 inch range as well. Now, as far as the perch bite goes, there's some pretty good sized schools of perch out in that deep water as well. 26 to 32 foot of water, throwing slip bobbers at them, and also catching them dragging Lindy rigs or trolling bottom bouncers out there as well. And then as far as the panfish bite goes, the majority of the panfish are being caught over in cutfoot, either pulling spinners on the outside edges of those weeds in that 7 to 10 foot of water, or pitching a small jig up in those weeds and working it back with a chunk of a crawler or a panfish leech. Now, if you're looking to hire a guide up in the Lake Winnie area, we're partnered up with Scott from zupsguideservice. He is the premier walleye guide up in the area. So if you're looking to get out on Lake Winnie to catch some beautiful walleyes or want to fish some of the other smaller local lakes, go ahead and call Scott from zupsguideservice. Now, if you're looking for a place to stay up in the Lake Winnie area, Chad at the Pines Resort, he does have a 5-bedroom, 2-bathroom cabin available for the 4th of July. That came open after a cancellation. So if you want to get up there really quickly for this 4th of July weekend, go ahead, give him a call. Otherwise, he does have some cabin availability throughout the rest of the season. And he does have a full bar and restaurant, live bait, rental boats, the whole works. So if you're looking to get up to the Lake Winnie area, go ahead and call Chad at the Pines Resort. All right, guys, well, that's going to do it for this week's fishing report. Really appreciate you guys tuning in. If you could, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel. It's absolutely free, and you will be notified every time we post a video or a fishing report. If you guys could, drop a comment down below. Let us know how fishing has been going for you so far this summer. And when you do get out fishing, take some pictures, send them to us on our Gmail or over at Facebook Messenger, and we will do our best to feature you in next week's report. Also, remember, when you get out fishing, be kind at the boat ramp, don't crowd your neighbor, and most importantly, don't forget to get on out there and get living.